Welcome back to the Elevated Podcast. I am Les Collegian. We are with Mark Gallo and Adam Daly. I want to open this up by Adam believes that he is the reason that I am an EO, and he would be correct. The story that you don't know, Mark, and probably a lot of other people don't know, is how I know Adam Daly is I was his landlord. Many years ago what year was that? The Front Street. 2010. 2010. He rented a loft from me downtown San Diego. And he was a great tenant with the exception that he was running a sweatshop in 1,000 square feet. He had about 13 employees in the place. And I would remember we had a manager, I don't remember her name. She would call me on the daily, pun intended, and go, we don't think he should be using the pool all day with his employees, like laptops outside. And he's in the conference room too long. And I'm like, Adam, you're killing me, man.
I feel. I don't know if you saw this, but there was a David Chappelle MTV Cribs thing where they broke it up, and it was like this beautiful home and everything else. And then, let me show you this. Everybody likes custom shoes. And then in the basement, there was like 30 people working on building in custom shoes.
That's awesome. That's a great Chappelle. That would make sense. But it was there where I befriended Adam and his antics, and he was like, Les, you should be a part of EO. And so that idea was born. So thank you for that. And which is why we're sitting here today. And I got to know you. So Adam, you've done a lot. I've known you forever. Tell us, just start out by your journey. Just let's go back to those days. I know you were doing stuff for the Olympics. You were doing travel. Give us that scoop and how that all went.
Yeah, I mean, I was in that Olympic travel business for 15 or 20 years or something like that. And I started as an athlete. I ran the Olympic trials back in 2000. And
Great
got
runner.
access.
Doing that.
Yeah. Was a good runner. Got access to a bunch of tickets and didn't know what being an entrepreneur was. I mean, I didn't know anything about, but I just knew selling something to someone and just did that and moved around with the Olympics. I moved, from place to place, and we lived in Greece, and then we moved to Italy, and then we moved to Germany, and then we moved to Vancouver, and kind of started having kids and was like, I want to settle down. So that's when I came down here, and I had joined EO by then. And so I was kind of like in this, I got to build this big business and, hire people and kind of got in over my skis, from, after a couple of years of moving here, because I was really into the big growth thing, but I was building my family at the same time.
Yeah.
And, so.
Which is not a small family. I mean, you've got 5 kids.
Yep.
By the way, his beautiful wife is the one that I use for travel recommendations because they've traveled so much.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. So what do you mean you got over your skis? I know what you mean, but what do you mean?
Yeah. So at the 2012 Olympics, the night before opening ceremonies, I sat in my hotel room by myself and I cried because I was losing $50,000 that night. And then the next 2.5 weeks, I lost $50,000 a night, basically. So it was.
Why? How?
I just, and I see this a lot now with people I know, especially in this organization, is I was definitely focused on the wrong things. I was focused on the culture and, the how fast can I build it and revenue versus are we selling, right? And so I just took my finger off the pulse. I got a bunch of young people that were awesome people, but hadn't done the things that I needed to have them done, if that makes sense.
Right.
I was hiring for character versus experience. And I was also hiring because I could get them cheaper. Right. And so I'm I'll train a bunch of young 20-something-year-olds and build them up. But they needed a lot more management than I was, giving them.
Yeah. Right.
And so we lost, $1 million in 2.5 weeks. And it was pretty devastating to, the company, to my wife, to everyone, because I was also the very cocky entrepreneur at that point of I know what I'm doing. I got this. Don't worry. And one of the best and worst things about that business specifically was the day after the Olympics, you kind of know where you stand. How much is in the bank account, right? You don't need a P&L necessarily. You're how much is in my suitcase? How much am I bringing back? Am I bringing back $100,000 in cash or something? Plus there's, 600 in the bank account. That's more or less. And we owe, Jim $40,000 or something like it. But it was pretty wrapped up by that. And so that was also the kind of hard part, of coming back from that and, having to tell bankers and things. And they're no, I saw your balance sheet. the week before the Olympics. You're good. And I'm like, well, all that $1 million of tickets got sold for 100,000, or here's the stacks of unused tickets.
So you were I didn't realize this even. You were advanced purchasing the tickets with the assumption, kind of like a scalper, right? Like you're buying front row seats to Paul McCartney, and you think that's going to sell for 10 grand, but you bought it for 3 and you can only sell it for 2. Yeah. Is that the analogy?
Yeah. I coupled that with, I had venues and I had hotels. I think I had about 500 hotel rooms that were every night, like I said, for whatever it was, 20 nights. And so, yeah. And you're buying, it's a total gamble ultimately. And that's what I realized after that business is like talking to other EOers. They're like, this is not a normal, we're all entrepreneurs. We all like to take risks, but this shit you do is like, it's like gambling. Like it's
over the top.
It's not in my control, right? Yeah. There's all these things that you're like in every Olympics in that cycle still to this day, some big players go out of business because they bet the wrong way. And it's like, that was my learning experience, And
you were how old at this point?
30, mid-30s.
Yeah. So we're still learning.
Dude, see what I love about this, dude. It's there's so many new EOers. I mean, guys in 5 years or less that have no clue about this. Yeah. And I mean, I know about it just because I was his landlord, so I knew a business he was operating, but I never understood the mechanisms of it.
Yeah.
To that level. Especially I certainly didn't think you were advanced purchasing to that level.
So what do you think your big takeaway was in that experience?
I mean, I had a few. One is, like, again, don't take your finger off the pulse. Look at financials. Talk to people. But and I had this vanity thing of like, we want to get 10 million in sales for London 2012 Olympics. That number was just pulled out of nowhere.
It wasn't even a BAG. It was
And so the joke, what was our joke? It was like, we hit 7, but our break even was 8. So it's like, and I literally had employees go like, well, we hit 7 million. Come on, dude, we made money. And I'm like, do you not understand this? And so and then not, like I said, I kind of the people like having like really. For me, I was really proud that I could get all these young kids that were like young and energetic, and train them. And ultimately, like I'm hiring people who aren't even good enough to train them. You know what I mean? At a discount. Like, so it's like the whole thing is just I'm hiring, and I don't want to say B players because I don't think they were B players. I just wasn't giving them the instruction or the direction that they really needed, or I should have been hiring some more people with the experience of like, and that's one of my big takeaways now is like, find someone who's actually done the thing you want to do, not like this awesome person who you trust and you play golf with and you can train them. Right. And my brain still goes to that. Right. Yeah. I'm still want to train every time I'm like, oh, I'm spending $2,000 a month on bookkeepers. I'll just hire my own bookkeeper because this makes no sense. And then I'll train them on my systems or whatever. And
I love this because I should tell you,
I love it.
No, because we do enough of these when everybody talks about the success stories, right? And the actual get into the this is where I learned to run a business differently. This is awesome.
What he's saying,
I don't want to harp on it at all, but
But it's
we
so
can talk about
it's such a
all
rookie.
day long.
It's such a rookie move, and we all make it.
Yeah,
right. We all make it, and I think it's not even the guy you want to play golf or have drinks with. It's like I'm going to hire cheap because that's what I can afford. Yep. But then that's the level of bang for the buck you get out of it, which inevitably just brings you down. And I did it hiring my first designer. Then I ended up redesigning all of this stuff, right? So we all do it. And it's just, what is the scale in which you did it?
Well, there was someone on the WhatsApp group the other day was talking, well, he's talking about the property managers, right, for vacation rentals. And someone said, 15%. And I'm like, dude, 15 is not the market rate. So you get what you pay for, right? Yeah. Like, so, and I think that's true. And maybe it works out the same in that situation because you're going to make 12% more, but you're going to pay 10% more. So it's like, it's a...
Well, and in that analogy, there's property managers. What I didn't realize is property managers for Airbnbs and then just for long-term rentals or different markets. And, I didn't know that, but then that's not what I do. And we always kind of find that we think we know until we know. And you understand it. So speaking of which, you maybe stopped doing that business, we'll say, in what year?
Well, it took me a while. I actually merged my business with another EOer out of Austin and ended up moving to Austin.
I remember those times.
And then, we met at the Driscoll one.
That's correct. Yeah.
During Southside,
South by Southwest.
And yeah, so I did that for a year and before the 2014 World Cup.
Okay.
And so it was like we had these two kind of struggling businesses that we thought if we added them together might
Two
really
wolves.
Yeah. But at least we spoke the same language through EO and through
Sure.
Greg Crabtree stuff. Just we'd read the same books, we spoke the same way. We'd both done the MIT thing. Like he'd actually got me into EO years before that. So we gave it a try. But we had another huge like hiccup in Brazil where he got arrested and
Oh my goodness.
thrown in prison, and it was like a whole other
That
crazy.
sounds like a whole other podcast I'd like to talk about. Like we might have maybe a 3-hour podcast.
That's a dark web. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually had already planned to leave the business right after that.
Yeah.
And I took a year off and went and traveled the world and just kind of pulled the plug on me personally.
Yeah.
Just like I'm like, hey, I need to disconnect, and it was one of those things of like I'm going to take a pause.
Well, then I'd be remiss not to ask, if you're $1 million in debt, how do you take off and go all over the world?
Yeah, I mean, some of that I just had to lick my wounds and sell a couple assets to pay for.
Oh, fair.
And some of it was I rolled over into that new business. I rolled over about $300,000 in credit card debt. That basically was getting paid, and then it stopped after Brazil happened. And so when I went away, it turns out these creditors come pretty hard after you. But if you're outside of the United States and you don't have a phone number and you can't be reached, it kind of went away. Yeah. And so, I mean, I came back at the end of the year, like 10 months in, and was like, called all the credit card companies. I was like, hey, I've been, AWOL. Can I settle this? And I settled most of that $300,000 for, kind of 10 cents on the dollar.
Great. Yeah.
And again, not something I was like, I'm ever like super proud of, but it was just like a spot where I was, and I was also miserable with the status quo. And so that was kind of my whole thing is like, hey, if I'm going to be miserable, if I'm going to spend whatever I was $12,000 a month on my, daycare and my cars and my rent and all this, for $12,000 a month, I can live in wherever I want in the world and be miserable. Like, and not that I was trying to be miserable, but that was my hypothesis when I was sitting on a plane looking at the destination of places to go, was like, I can just travel around the world for the same price I'm paying for my normal life here. And so since I didn't know what the next step was, I was like, let's just do that. And we only had 4 kids at the time. So,
but that's still done. I mean, I travel with 1 kid and it's difficult, especially at a young age. So I can't imagine that's got to be a lot of logistics and just challenging mentally when they say, what keeps you up at night?
Yeah.
That's got to be a little challenging.
Yeah, it was a great experience. It was a great experience for my wife and I. For my kids, I mean, they barely remember most of it, but it also taught them about transitions and not getting my kids can go anywhere now.
100%.
And they don't
Care.
they're not like, oh, I forgot my blanket, I'm not going to make it through the night. They're just like, they deal with those transitions.
Well, I think, and if I could say you learned something or just expanded upon his resilience, I mean, and you and Jessica maybe bonding over that resilience probably, made everything stronger too. Because that is some tough shit.
Yeah,
right? Let's just be honest. So, okay, you're out of that. The game I know you for today, and I don't know if there's any games in between, and you can let us know, but is more of the real estate and I know you own a hotel, you have properties. You bought the 2 properties I really wanted to buy, those 2 kind of like crack houses on the corner of Front and Cedar that you modified and made absolutely beautiful. Just tell us the story of how'd you get into that? And were you kind of into that already? And
was that a passion?
Yeah.
I mean, I liked the idea of it. And I also, I got reminded that I liked the hotel business. I guess part of it was we tried to buy a hotel when we were living in Vancouver, a bed and breakfast in Whistler. We tried to buy a hotel in Barcelona many 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'd forgotten these things, but I did know that in my Olympic business, we bought a Ramada in Vancouver during the 2010 Olympics, and I spent $1.2 million on it for the month. Wow. And I was like, man, I want to be the guy who owns the hotel. I just remember thinking that and going like, dude, I like this. And I liked selling the rooms, and I liked the arbitrage, and I liked the opportunity of even though I got my ass kicked on day 1 lost $50,000, at least there was a day 2 that I could have maybe made it up. Right.
Sure,
so
sure.
I think I liked the business model, and I liked, I started getting into real estate, and I bought that place, and I was going to turn it into an office, and then it just wasn't renting as an office. And I was like, well, I understood this thing that was happening with Airbnb. And so I was like, let's just make it an Airbnb while we're trying to rent as an office. And that, it, like, by the time the office offer came in, I'm like, no, I'm making way more as an Airbnb here.
Sure.
So it's just, for me, I was like, I want to get more inventory, and I want to build more properties in this portfolio.
I mean, I got to ask you this though, because I know you've been doing this so long. When Airbnb was invented, you were able to hop on that bandwagon. Now the regulations are so strict. Would that have affected you differently? Should you had started this now, or
no? I mean,
those places.
Yeah, that we still Airbnb them. It's just more. I think the opportunity is not as good because there's so much out there.
Right?
It's not regulation is okay, right? I mean, because it keeps the bad players from doing bad things.
Got it.
And it's like some of this should be regulated. It shouldn't be the total Wild West.
No, but in fairness, what I'm saying is like, I have a condo. I can only rent it in 30 days. I can't do, so
none of our properties would fit into that category of
gotcha.
like the regulation. But I mean, I spend more on permits now. I spend $1,000 every year to get the right permits. And it's not as good as it used to be. I mean, right now we're working way harder to hit numbers, our 2023 numbers, right? Instead of growing 10% or 20% or whatever we used to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's also why part of the reason I like getting into these boutique hotels, because it's almost a hedge. I still have a handful of Airbnb properties, but I'm like, oh, this is as if all the Airbnbs got shut down. It would just make the hotel better.
Are you starting to see a shift of people going from Airbnb back to hotel? Or is that becoming a thing or no? Yeah.
I think people like me, when I'm traveling with my family, I can't stay in a hotel, so it's like I'm always going to be an Airbnb guy. But when I go with my wife, I definitely like the idea of like, it's clean. I mean, it's like I know what I'm getting when I go to a Marriott, right? Whereas and I'm not going to have to deal with my keys or checking in or whatever. Like I understand the dynamics of that, and people are getting. I know. I mean, it's like there's all this stuff about people getting frustrated with. Strip the sheets and go throw your dishes in the dishwasher, and
versus you guys clean it up. For sure.
But I think hotel. I mean, I just see hotels as a consumer too when I'm traveling, and I'm like, dude, it's like $300 for Seattle in the middle of the week or something. You're like, this is expensive.
Yeah,
like the
it's
hotel
outrageous now. Yeah.
So it's also like I'm like I kind of want to be a part of that too, right? In the right markets, which San Diego is.
Let's step back a sec because so your business 100% focus right now is this commercial / residential property real estate. Is that accurate, or is there another business, or just tell me what?
I mean, I do lots of other little things. I'm helping a buddy with this AI company now. I'm a high school coach.
Right.
And I do some like small consulting stuff, but that's been the big thing.
Yeah.
I just haven't bought another property in like the last year and a half.
Got it.
So it's been like a tougher climate.
100%.
And so I'm like more focused on like trying to like optimize the current portfolio versus like acquiring new stuff, even though now I'm like now the deals are starting to come in. And so it's just a matter of like figuring out like, what the next thing looks like.
Because is the climate more because of the interest rates, or just because of the competition, or
in terms of what getting a little better right this second, or being bad the past couple of years?
No. Well, buying something, you haven't bought something in a year and a half.
It's definitely interest rates.
Okay.
It's definitely like, it's just harder to make a deal pencil now. You're like, you look at it and you're like, oh, this does, this and this, and you do it in your head and you're like, this will work. And then you put it on the spreadsheet and you're like, oh no, that's not a 4.75% interest rate. It's an 8. And you're like, oh, that changes this a lot. And then you're like, oh, even just little things like SDG&E or people, right? They've gone up, and you're like, okay. So it's a little harder. And San Diego's a unique market because people don't like, there's not many desperate property owners here. I mean, they're pretty sophisticated. It's been in their families for generations a lot of times, or they're like, so you're not like, I in all these other mastermind groups, and they're like, it's all about like finding the people who are motivated. And I'm like, dude, I've met so many people here that are sitting on a piece of shit property, and it's, worth, $5 million. They think it's worth $7 million, but they're also like, whatever, I don't care. Like, and they're like losing money. They're like, yeah, I lose 10 grand on this every month, but I make 40 on these other 3 things I have, and my dad gave them to me, and I just don't care.
So you've got your hands in a ton of
That's where I'm grappling with.
So my question is, at the end of the day, what do you think your superpower is when you start thinking about like the guy that could pull these deals together, the guy that can, what do you think? What is it behind Adam Daly that makes Adam Daly special?
I think it's like there's like a mix of like building relationships, building community, seeing opportunities and angles like through like a vast kind of network, I guess you could say. Because like when I was in the Olympic business, I was the only one selling to agents, sports agents, and companies, and athletes' families, and National Olympic Committee. So it was like I was no one was selling to all these different channels, right? And even now, it's like I'm like, oh, I master lease some properties, and then I have operators for some, and I feel like in some of these properties I bought knowing exactly what I was going to do, and some I've been able to shift. And so I think it's like, and I've been thinking about that a lot with all the AI stuff that everyone's, thinking about these days. And it's like, what is my superpower? And it was like the other night, for this cross country meet we're doing down in Balboa Park, the high school. I'm the coach, like I said, at La Jolla High, and the kids are running a race on Wednesday afternoon. And I was like, what would be cool is with, like, last year we all went out and had, a burger and a beer, like 6 or 8 of us, the parents and stuff. And I was like, we should, because I'm trying to build more community, right? And everywhere I go, right? Whether it's this organization or my family or whatever. And so I'm like, we should do that. And I was like, we should go to Grand Old Barbecue. It's right by there. It's like half a mile from there. And I was like, and I had this thought, and I was like, I think I had this guy's phone number on one of my emails. So I had this thought. I texted the guy. I was like, hey, if I bring 30 or 40 people, can you kick back 20% to the school? And he's like, yeah, sure. And so it was like, this all happened in like 60 seconds. And I'm like, we're going to go spend, $3,000.
Yeah, exactly.
The school's going to make some money. All these parents are going to be happy because they're actually going to hang out with each other. Like, it's like this win-win-win-win. And like all the parents, like, how'd you get this idea? Like, what? Like, no one, we've never seen anyone do this in schools. And I'm like, but that took me a second, right?
Yeah.
Like, in terms, like, that literally took me like less than 2 minutes. Like, Jessica was with me at the table. She's like, he already wrote back. I'm like, yeah, it's a done deal. And I was like, so, and we, and so I think that's like one tiny example, but that was one of those things. I'm like, if with AI and all these things, like, how can I be relevant? It's like little things like that, whether it's a deal or relationship or introducing stuff.
Yeah, let me just say, first of all, that's a freaking phenomenal answer. Number one, and number two,
I appreciate you brought an example.
I think, I think it defines you exactly as to who you are, and I don't think AI is a fucking piece of it. I think it's about your ability to critically think and build a relationship and know how to maneuver that situation where it is a win-win. I mean, it's Dale Carnegie. It's how to, win friends and influence people, right? You have that ability and many people in EO do, but I think that definitely would define you as, from what I know you, like, it's, I'd say like your misconception, right? I'm going to answer this for him. One of my questions I was going to ask him,
I appreciate you.
would be, let me just answer this for him. I'd say, what's a misconception people have? And some people, if they don't know you, they just think you're very like dry, like, no, he's not. And then they get to talk to you and you're like, this is the funniest dude I've ever talked to. Right. And so, but it's just who you are.
Yeah.
And that capability. Yeah, so that was a really good answer.
Yeah, because I was bringing it up. I'm like, I've been in EO for about 7 years now. I probably had 7 words with Adam before this. So I'm like, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
I get to know a little bit about him,
So, but what a great answer, because that example really happened. I mean, really, really resonates, I think. So going back, so now you're doing the real estate. That's your key, let's say, business focus, revenue maker, we'll say. Where have you made bigger mistakes, would you say, in that or previously, from a business standpoint?
I make mistakes all the time.
What's the worst? Can you think of 50,000 a day is pretty bad.
50 grand.
Yeah, that was the most kind of traumatic like event. I think it was. I've got like partners in almost all my deals, and I've got some great partners, and I've got some horrible partners, and so I think it's that's definitely like something I think about, is like who I choose to align with, and I get kind of enamored with peers who are similar to me. You know what I mean? Like, it's like if you and me sat down, we'd have beers and that would come up with a great business idea, but we would probably not be the best partners because we're like, who's going to do the spreadsheet and make sure bills get paid and like, right. And so that's where I struggle, I think is kind of, like I said, going back to even what I was talking about before of like the training people, managing people. And I made a lot of like managing mistakes over the years, I think, as well as, and I would include partners in that. You know, I have some pretty like gnarly partnership.
Yeah. Well, and so, I mean, can you like, that's a tough one. And I'm sure there's a bunch of people in EO that have this problem, on many facets. And it is tough when you think you've got the right partner and things go south. Right. But I think, so accountability for like spreadsheets versus who pays the bills versus who calls the hotel manager, or whatever, that can be overcome quickly. What are the ones though that, because I don't know if I believe you a little bit on that. I think that if, like, for example, if you and I were partners in something, as long as we were smart enough in advance to set the expectations of what that partner do, we get past that, right? Where are the bigger challenges where someone just doesn't have the same value system that you thought they did, or something like that went awry? Because I'm sure it's happened.
That's a big one. Yeah, and I think that's like, I mean, I've had that happen a couple times, but it was also like, I don't want to say external factor. It's like I have a gnarly partner situation, but I'm like, I don't know what happened to him. Like that was not something happened to him chemically. Like I think like this guy went crazy. Like, and so I'm like, that's an outlier, right? But so it's like for the most part, I do choose to. I think I choose to align with people who share my values. I just don't have some of those harder conversations that you're talking about beforehand. And that's like, obviously, like partnership 101 is like talking, oh, what happens if your wife dies? And this, it's like, what happens if, I mean, David Baker was my partner. He died, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, we never discussed what was going to happen. And it was fine. We found a solution with his family. But in general, you never sit down and talk about like, what happens when we run out of money and I don't have any. Or you don't have any. Like,
right.
What's that look like? Or what happens when you get divorced and your wife wants to take half of it? Or what, all these different things that it's like, what happens if we don't agree? It's like,
you're kind of getting into like the reason why lawyers exist, right? It's always the what ifs, and sometimes though those are really, because they could bore you to death with what ifs. And like, for example, what if David Baker dies? Right, would be something I would never ask. The guy was a young guy, right? And so how can you predict, some of those things where, I mean, I remember when I was getting divorced, what if your son has some kind of disease and he has to fly to Boston? I'm like, Jesus, why are you asking? Like, just no, let's not do that.
Yeah.
So where is that line drawn? And I also understand what you're saying though, when you do have a partner that just goes nuts, like you just things you can't predict. With all the what ifs in the world, you can't predict it. And so how do you get past that? Like, how are you dealing with that currently with a difficult partner?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, it starts with that value. If you have the same values, it's like, I think there's a huge, learning opportunity. I think, with one of my current partners now, like we put in a third party who doesn't even know he's the third party. He doesn't know he's in this contract, but we're both like, I'm like, you like this guy. I like this guy. Right. We both like trust him enough to like, if something goes bad,
To be
he'll be the mediator. We're both agree. Right. He doesn't like you more than me or whatever. And so thinking things like that through was, cause I'm also like, a lot of my partnerships aren't just one guy, it's two guys. Right. And so, in a lot of them, they can outvote me if everyone teams up on it. Right. But I'm also like, hey, if three people in the room think this and I think something different, I'm okay with that. Probably the decision, because
I'm wrong.
Yeah. Which is okay.
Yeah. For sure.
Especially when it's rational like that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, in all these situations with our families and things like that, I have talked about my kids a lot. If like you're in an argument with 7 people and they all think you're an asshole, might be time to go look in the mirror. Like maybe
common denominator.
Yeah. If your village
it's not all their fault.
If your village doesn't have an idiot.
Yeah. Do you have any on this? Well, so I feel as if, and I know this sounds like odd to say, but I feel like I've just known you so well, and maybe you just do it so well. I almost just feel like your business is a hobby. Like you're just like, I'm buying these condos and hotels and, but because you're doing so much. Are you really, is that your main focus right now? Like, and what is your plan for growth over the next 3-4 years?
Yeah. I mean, I'm very hesitant, I guess, to jump into like a deal that I don't love right now with what's going on with technology. I guess that's kind of where I'm really focused right now, is what are the tools I'm using, and I don't want to be stuck making, $300,000 deals when there's huge opportunities. Like I said, I'm not a technology guy, I'm not an AI guy, but I'm kind of getting obsessed with like using these tools to, and what's happening with our world and how I can use them for business. So instead of like me going like, oh, let me tie these 6 tools for my current business, which I'm doing. While I'm doing that, I'm also like, why isn't there a tool that these 2 things are the exact same? Someone should create this and create it for real estate, right? And that would be a nice little thing that I could push to real estate, people, right?
So in other words, what you're saying is you're leveraging your knowledge in all of these goddamn transactions to potentially create something.
I'm just looking for patterns, and I'm trying to learn. I'm really trying to learn. Like I feel like not half my day, but I'm spending an hour or 2 reading newsletters, trying new things out. Like it's just because it's like, and I'm really concerned, for my kids and like what this is going to mean for them. So I'm like, I feel like I need to be smarter than them right this second, so I can show them as well.
Yeah. And so would you say that if I'm asking you where you're up to in 3 years, is it maybe more of that, like just really the assistance in?
Yeah, using
what do you want to be?
Yeah, so I want to be using more technology / automation to run this business. So instead of me picking up a phone and calling an owner of a property, and chasing him down, or, I want to use that automation to run numbers, to contact them, to, follow up with them, or find out if it's a better, or have the technology that does that, right? Oh, I understand what this group of people thinks like. I understand what high school cross-country coaches in Southern California think about this, and we could use this tool. Or I know what parents of 5 kids want, right?
Yeah.
Like so all these things, it's like I'm not going to create the next Google or anything like that, but I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit to tie, like to especially because there's a lot of people who don't understand this, and it's like, if you can just capitalize on that, I think there's a lot of opportunity.
So I mean, I'm hearing all these different things, right? And this is the first time really get to know Adam, right? And so kicks up at 10-year-old Adam sitting at home, thinking, I like to run, what does 10-year-old Adam think of you now?
That's an interesting question. Probably pretty excited that I ended up in Southern California, because I used to romanticize about living in Santa Monica when I was growing up. That's where my grandparents lived. I'm from Austin.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And I think, I think I like I said,
I kids, Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, I had 8 Irish Catholic cousins out of Chicago that had 18 kids, and they were the coolest family to me. So I remembered growing up thinking like, oh, it's like, I'd love to have a big family. So that wouldn't probably surprise me. I think I probably would have. I think I thought I wanted to be a professional athlete, and I did that a little bit. So I think, but I definitely, I don't know. I guess I'd probably be proud of myself, maybe, but I don't know. It's
do you give yourself the opportunity to be proud of yourself?
Yeah.
I guess I feel like you're not giving yourself
enough credit.
Yeah, you're not giving yourself enough credit. I mean,
I'm Jewish, so I'm kind of wired to.
Wired for guilt. We're wired for guilt. So. Yeah, he mentions he coaches the basketball team. That's actually his kids, all 5 of us.
Well, listen, I understand as a household of 7. I understand it's yeah.
Yeah, so I think for like like I said, the word entrepreneur growing up to me meant like, oh, this is like a guy who owns a gas station and like has one of those self-service mail stamp things. It wasn't like a sexy term or whatever like it is now, but I knew I was like, knew I wanted to kind of do my own thing, and I was always doing lemonade stands and buying football cards and selling them and doing, just hustling, selling shit on the classifieds. I remember it always,
cross country, long distance running in itself is its own solo sport, right? I mean, it's pretty much, it's all on you, and so, I mean, it's not a surprise you become an entrepreneur. It's based on that, right? Because it's a free thinking kind of space. I'm impressed.
It's discipline too.
It's 100%. It's mindset, right? I mean, it's insanity. I mean, one of my good friends growing up, he's a cross country coach in Houston, and he's just talking about mindset. I mean, he grew up with nothing, and running cost nothing. So it was like,
well, you're also picking the sport that everyone else does as like punishment, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the Jewish side of this.
He's looking for punishment.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, and that's what
no kidding.
I tell kids, I'm like, dude, you picked the wrong sport if you think you picked the, because it's like got this like reputation. It's kind of like the nerdy kids weren't as athletic, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you're here to run. Like you're to be running an hour a day. That's tough.
Yeah, that's very hard. Well, in that time, I mean, between, I guess you starting on the Olympic path to the real estate and everything in between, what's one of the biggest lessons you feel like you've learned from someone else that maybe has changed your progression?
He wants to be a landlord.
Yeah. You're welcome. Ironically, he is.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the lesson, that's an interesting one. Yeah. I mean, I think I pick up pieces of people's like lifestyles, that I appreciate or piece of advice. And I also I pick out like what I don't like. I'm like, if I had that guy's money, I would never work as hard as him. Or I find that, it's like, so I'm like, I know myself, so I know kind of where I want to be, I guess you could say. But I don't think I'm answering the question the right way, but I think
it's okay if you don't. It's a tough one off the cuff. It's just, sometimes someone gives you that nugget. I've had and I think EO has given me a bunch of nuggets, like random dudes through the years, the U's, the Rons, the whoever I'm talking to, Matt, any guy. They'll just one sentence. It's just like, oh, I should have.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have like Baker told me like one time over drinks, like late one night, he's like, dude, pick a lane. And so I remembered I wrote that down and put on my computer screen for like a couple of years. But I've not done a good job of doing that, so it's like, that's like, I hear that advice a lot of like, I need to focus more and pick one thing. And I mean, that's literally what ChatGPT.
Well, you're not a top runner. You don't pick lanes.
ChatGPT told me I had a prompt yesterday. It's like, tell me one thing, a blind spot. And it was like, you're doing too many things. Like the type of shit, it gave me like 20 examples. Like nobody is asking me for these 20 random things that have nothing to do with it.
My AI brain is not smart enough to help you through this process.
Yeah, AI is telling you to slow down.
Yeah.
That's pretty classic. Well, then, like, I guess what challenge are you currently facing then I mean, is it learning the new software technology or the fact that you're not making deals due to interest rates or family? Whatever?
Yeah, I think it's bandwidth, and I think it's, like I said, I think it's I do a lot of things, but I'm also probably guilty of just kind of analysis paralysis at times too.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think that the challenge is, like I said, is where I don't want to like stop and do something I think the world's changing faster than we're ever going to see. And so I don't want to be stuck at doing 2023 when 2026 is almost here. And so
you don't want to be the old guy on the lawn, go and get off my lawn with this AI.
I mean, you get around people in this organization and you can feel inadequate because you're like, I'm so behind.
Damn quick.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
And then you go in other places and you're like, okay, there's still a lot of opportunity, because it's like there's still, most of the country isn't, as smart as the people we're surrounding ourselves with. So it's like, there's still a lot of opportunity, I think. But it's also like, again, how are you changing the way you think?
Right.
And so I think that's what I spend a lot of time thinking about. Like you're thinking, like Jessica will come to me and she'll be like, how do I do this with chat? And I'm like, you're thinking of it. You just want the answer, but you got to think of the problem in a different way. You got to go like 2 steps above of like, what's the real problem? The root is this, actually. It's not the answer that you think you want, right?
Right. It's almost like we're trained to coach and, in forums and stuff. It's like getting to the root problem. What you think your problem is really isn't the problem. It's 5 steps down here.
Yeah.
And then when you realize that, you're like, whatever. But to that point, we talked a little bit about imposter syndrome and in a couple other podcasts, I'm sure. But like, I like hearing that because it's nice validation for me as I sit and go, man, I'm surrounded by everyone smarter than me.
Oh my
Like,
God.
am I just an idiot here? Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Even though, look, I'm a successful guy. I'm just like, but God, everyone's so much smarter. They're doing so much more. And then to your point, you look outside of that box. You're like, and you're like, okay, it's not that. I'm really just surrounding myself with brilliant fucking people. Which, by the way, it is the smart thing is to be the dumbest guy in the room.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so I literally have to try to tell myself and coach myself that it's okay. I'm doing just fine. Even at 55,
For sure.
I'm doing that, and you think you'd be over it by now.
Well, and there's like I said, there's certain things that you're like, oh, I wish I had that guy's yacht or whatever. But there's also sometimes where it's like the opposite, like I said, where you're like, dude, I love that he was able to like get out and do this, and so for me, I pick up things, like you look at like Jimmy Page is like, when I'm out, and I am out. Like, and he's not this driven, like he doesn't want to go build 17 more business. He's like, dude, I'm good.
I got my number. I'm out.
That's so funny. I just sat with him about 2 weeks ago and he said exactly that. I'm like, good for you, man.
And so like that maybe wouldn't be exactly what I do when I get my number, but it's like there's parts of me that's like going in the bank, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like when you ask about things you're like, it's like there's like, oh, I love the way this guy is with make these choices for his family. I hate the way this guy made choices regarding his family. Like, so it's like, so it all adds up because we're all in this cycle and we're all in this like roller coaster. I always say where it's like, you're crushing it right now and my business is, in the dumps. And then in a year we could literally be swapped, right? And that's why there's so much value in kind of that pureness.
And for those who don't know, Jimmy Page is not the lead singer of Led Zeppelin in this
He
case.
actually is.
Well, he is, but
Yeah.
he actually was an EO and friend of ours who exited, and good for him.
Yeah, good.
And I get more jealous of him because he did something similar to me,
Yeah.
which makes it harder.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, damn it, Jimmy's smarter than me too. Everybody is. So,
brand recognition.
what are some things that as we're moving close to the end here? I mean, dude, I always love talking to you.
Yeah.
It's what are some things maybe that you want EO to know about you? What are I answered that question before. Maybe you have a better answer. How do people perceive you or misconceive you, and who do you want to be in EO?
What is the biggest misconception that EO has of you?
It's a tough question.
I would say, I mean, you're probably spot on. I mean, that I don't know how many people have told me, not just in EO in my life, of like, I never knew if you liked me or not.
Yeah. That's fair.
And or my Jessica will say to people like, oh, when he starts making fun of you, that's when he really likes you.
Yeah.
And so I think it's that that and kind of like the I think there's a lot of like not misunderstanding, but most people don't understand what I do,
Right.
Fundamentally. And so it's like, I mean, I have a lot of people who've like been my partners within this company, within this organization. I have a lot of people who've invested with me. So it's like, that's cool. But it's also like, I have trouble sometimes articulating, and I'm big on the kind of no solicit. So it's always hard. Like it's hard. It's been hard for me to maneuver that, because I've had people go like, I would have put money in with you. And, and so,
but to your point, you don't ask for it.
Yeah. And I think probably that is just that I'm like serious, or that I don't like most, people who don't know me think for sure I don't like them. Like I would say.
Well, you heard it here first. Adam is soliciting for money for his businesses.
Can you put my Venmo up, Bruce?
It's okay on the needs and leads. The EO needs and leads channel.
Well, you have anything else for Adam?
I've just been impressed so far. I appreciate you coming in.
I got smoke coming out of my ears. Like, he can just keep going. I love that you came in and did this. Thank you for doing it. I hope, for those of you who don't know Adam, he is, just because he's stone-faced doesn't mean he doesn't like you. He's just got a really mellow way.
Super chill.
And he's just a chill dude. And thanks for coming in.
A lot of people think I do a lot of drugs too, which is not. I don't.
Not a lot.
Because I'm just always like.
Really? He's not high. No, thanks for coming in, man. I really appreciate you.
For sure.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
We'll see you next time.